Welcome back to the 33rd part of Debugging at Scale, where we explain the problematic nature of Kubernetes. Before we reach the debugger and go through the entire process, we need to understand the core problem. A core idea in Kubernetes is that one shouldn't modify container instances. If you do that, you might cause issues as Kubernetes brings up new instances. You can log in into a container running in the given pod using kubectl exec, which gives us a prompt as if we're logged into a physical machine. The first problem we run into with the kubectl exec command is that we're running without basic tools, no Vim, no traceroute, no basic capabilities. If you're used to running Linux or Unix commands to understand what went wrong in the environment, you will be surely disappointed. Worse, some container images have nothing installed, not even a shell. We would have no way to work with such a container. If the container crashes, we can't log into it, but we'd still want to examine the last state of the container. Exec doesn't solve these problems. When the container has apt or APK, and when the pod isn't crashed, we could theoretically just invoke apt get install vim. But this violates the principle of keeping the container unmodified. We don't want people in production installing packages left and right. Even if it's cleaned up, the risks are sometimes too high. Pods shouldn't be touched in production once deployed. We should describe all the information and state of a pod in its manifest. The problem might not seem too bad, but an installation might trigger dependencies which might cause application failures in unpredictable ways. The solution to these problems is ephemeral containers. Kubernetes has a higher abstraction on top of containers called pods. Pods group together related containers, and they have unique access to one another. Ephemeral containers are added to the same pod as the container you're trying to debug, but they are temporary and separate. What do you do in them doesn't impact the overall application. You don't need to restart anything, and you can still get special access to the container. There are many ways to create such containers, but the most powerful is probably with kubectl debug. Initially, it seems to work similarly to the exec command, but that's misleading. It creates a separate ephemeral container in the same namespace as the container you're trying to debug. As a result, we have a separate image which can run a completely separate version of the OS. It can reside in the same namespace, so we have access to the same process. The container's root file system can be mounted to the root directory, and we can have access to everything. In this code, we're not connecting to our container. We're creating a new container from the given Ubuntu base image. This is an ephemeral container, and it will disappear when the pod is destroyed. In it, we can check things about the actual container of interest. We can use an arbitrary image for that container. This means that if the original container crashes, our ephemeral container will still work and can still inspect it. If it has no shell, we can still log in to our debug container where we have an entire OS. We can install arbitrary tools on the fly since they won't impact the debugged container, and we can use them to debug. It's very cool. The ephemeral container uses the fact that we can have multiple containers in the same pod. It lets us debug a production environment with lower risk of impact. We can use exec to debug production, In both cases, there's a risk and you need to guard against problems, but the ephemeral environment isn't as risky. Regardless, you should heavily restrict access to a system like this. They are tantamount to handing your keys to the person who has access. There's a lot more I can say about kubectl debug and ephemeral containers. I think I might cross into the realm of DevOps courses if I dig any further there. In the next video, we'll discuss source debugging in a Kubernetes environment. If you have any questions, please use the Slack channel to ask them. Thank you.